Boom. And we are live on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. What's up, everyone? It's Joe and John. We're back again this week. We are just going to start just chatting through everything that's kind of sparked our interest in the last couple of days. Finally got some movement in the marketplace over the last day or so, which has been nice. So let's kind of get at it. What are you looking at, John?
Lots of things, but it's been alt season and DeFi season specifically the last few months, and so we've seen it be pretty boring in Bitcoin, and that seems to be a lot of the narrative. And I should say until today, we posted earlier that the level of social activity today for Bitcoin we haven't seen since the halving, so it's pretty encouraging, pretty exciting, especially considering everything that was built up to that. You have a huge media effect that went into the halving and after. I mean, we actually saw for a few days after, it just kept going. The activity was just crazy. But we're not all that much lower than that right now. If you can see my screen on here, I'll just pull up one day. Today so far we have almost 146,000 Bitcoin mentions, mainly on Twitter, but other channels as well. When you look at that, another thing that we've seen is we've actually seen, even though Bitcoin has like a 60-something% dominance, we've seen social dominance fall into the 40% range. And so, in fact, today we're seeing it was like 53-54% the social dominance. So social's coming back for Bitcoin. And it's really across the board. If I swapped, we're looking at post mentions here, but today if I went to contributors, which this looks at individual accounts right now, and like individual user accounts, and if I'll go back a month on that. And so you'll see, and this was yesterday's close, but we had 45,000 yesterday, and today there's 100,000 contributors. So this is huge. Like, this is a lot of activity going on. So it's broad-based. It's continuous. It's super healthy for the market, and we're seeing it bleed into some of the larger cap alts. So very exciting.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's been a little, we've seen the article headlines that say crypto is boring, but really it's just been Bitcoin's been a little bit boring. But I think somewhat to be expected after the halving earlier in the year, and how correlated it's been with the overall broader markets. And so you've had to really kind of dive deep to discover and find a little bit of alpha. And it's out there with some of these DeFi projects right now. It's crazy.
Have you been seeing recently any more correlations to like the stock market and things for Bitcoin?
It's been so spot on. When you're looking at correlations and you're looking at how correlated something really is. Anything that's, even getting into the 50 to 60% range is pretty correlated. And, ever since, basically March 17th, late February and kind of when COVID started hitting, it's been almost 80% correlated. And so, like calculations are a little bit different depending on who's looking at it, but it's, you can tell that it's been very correlated to highly correlated over the last 2 to 3 months. And that's, which is a different narrative than I think people thought was going to happen. And, you had a lot of people talking about, non-correlated, systematic hedge, and, they can't really talk about that right now anymore. And, it's something else, and I think it's still a discovery, and Bitcoin is a new discovery every year of how it changes and how it's being used and who's adopting. But, I think the best thing about Bitcoin is that it stays the same.
Yeah, I agreed. Super exciting. And I think there's been a few really interesting projects I'd love to chat about today that seem to move, I don't want to call it in tandem, but they certainly like to move with Bitcoin. And so a couple of those one is Chainlink. And so, we've seen Chainlink just kind of defy gravity a little bit here. And, we posted earlier as well that, it's just on fire. I don't know what to say. If I could just go through, in fact, why don't I show all metrics on this, and let's just look at today, right? like every single side, you look at the very right side of these graphs, everything is just like on fire. And we had a new all-time high in price, all-time high in social activity across the board, every single metric. And so it's kind of been like moving, sitting in this range, trading back and forth. I'd say the same thing goes for, no coincidence that Tezos has moved today as well, moved 6.6%. And it's interesting because this project's been consolidating for a bit, moving down, kind of hanging out. You've had Chainlink kind of consolidating, and then boom, you have the same day that a Bitcoin move happens, and these two projects move right alongside it with it. And that's not actually what we've seen lately. We've seen some just absolutely insane moves in other projects. In VChain, for example. We've been talking about DeFi. We've talking about Aave and Compound and those kinds of projects. And so there's definitely a different move going on here. So really exciting week ahead for really everyone to keep watching.
Yeah, I feel like there was, even with the stock market, kind of the huge moves that we saw today. I mean, people texted me things like, I made so much on Tesla today, or like things are getting a little crazy. And, I think you're just seeing an overall market move up across almost every asset class. And, I don't know whether, the confidence is just there and it's never going away. And, betting against any of these things right now is dangerous, but it's, some of the volatility is coming back into the upside, and I think it's great to see.
Yeah, super, super exciting. Probably that money printing going on there that's making everything worth the same but looks higher.
Yeah.
Let's talk VChain. Really crazy. I mean, we did a post last Friday. I think it was Friday, and we noticed that this thing was just going crazy. If I just go back over the last week here, and we'll see that it's up 67.11% over the last week. And we were keeping our eye on this one because it had been kind of consolidating for a little bit. Social activity has been kind of having these waves. If we go back over 6 months and look at this, we're at a new high, and that looks something like this is contributors. We just had on Saturday on the weekend. Remember weekends? We used to like go and leave the house and not post on social all weekend.
So nice.
Right. It's a little different now. And on our end, we see our biggest days on Sunday, like 4th of July. Like it's crazy. But 3,000 people, individuals were posting about VChain, and that looked like 7,826 posts. And like we're seeing a lot of buzz around this project, and people are talking about like, is it going to be on Coinbase soon? Really great technology, a lot of back and forth. I think Deloitte, I may be right or wrong with this one, but it's something along the lines of they're dropping Ethereum for VChain, something along those lines. I haven't researched that one, so bear with me on that. But really interesting moves on projects like this, and it moved away from when Bitcoin was moving today. Bitcoin moved up today. This sort of consolidated a bit today. So we're seeing these different waves happen in different projects.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just reading an article, and this looks like it's on Yahoo from May 2nd. Okay, this is a little bit longer ago, but it says Deloitte ditches Ethereum for VChain, brags about overtaking Bitcoin transactions. So it might have been a while ago.
Yeah,
but maybe some stuff starting to be implemented now.
It seems like there's a lot of discussion with supply chains and like Walmart and things of that nature. Like it's really, it seems like a different type of a more scalable blockchain that I think might be more focused on enterprise, but really interesting. And when we look at, our influencers on this one over the past 6 months, let's see who's been working real hard here. And so we actually look at these influencers. What's that? Oh, we're in there. That's funny.
6 months.
6 months. So over the 6 months, we've got VChain, we've got us, we've got CKJ, UVTHO, Moonshot Caller. We chat with him quite a bit on Twitter. Crypto Kenny, fucking bullish on Vet. See, I think he's bullish. I love it. how these are calculated, there's really three factors: engagement, activity, and popularity. Those three combine in real time over time, meaning if I look at this on a 1 day, the list is going to be different. You're going to see different individuals just a bit. So today, Moonshot Caller is number one. And so you've got this kind of rolling activity stream that's going on, and to be ranked well on here means that you're posting a lot of content that gets a lot of engagement, that increases following, that really resonates with the community, gets shared a lot. We look at all of these things versus just doing a survey of something of that sort. I won't say it who, but saw recently even another major exchange was doing a survey to ask the community who was most influential. And I was sort of laughing at this going, we can actually tell them right now. It's kind of funny. It's kind of an antiquated way to figure out who's most influential, what we keep seeing out there. So
yeah, and so everyone knows, I mean, we're looking at this stuff in real time, and it's changing constantly. And so, I think, what is it, John? We say, I know it's in our FAQs, but I think right now you need at least 500 followers, I think, to be listed.
Yes.
Or at least,
yes.
Have your kind of profile page get picked up on there. So just so everyone knows.
We've said a number of things in there. Like, you can't just do one magic tweet and go, what do you mean I'm not influential? My one tweet was huge, and you've got no following and you do no other posts. That's just a big post. That's not an influencer. That's like someone doing a big post. That's really great. I could like take a major car maker and have them do one tweet. Like, great. That's going to get you a lot of traffic, but it's not influential over time. We've seen some celebrities that do posts on Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that. And they usually don't just do one. There's kind of like a swarm of these things, and that gets them to become an influencer. So,
yeah. So you're getting a lot of, you got a couple of requests to go over DMG.
Do we have some DMG in here? Man, this is crazy. And for the record, we have no affiliation with DMM governance, DMG, nothing. In fact, any of these projects, actually, and nothing's paid. It's all free. This is all just, really our tool that monitors the market. So DMG is the governance token of the DMM DAO. They actually have a relationship with some of our investors, Draper Goren Home. And so, not with any related reason, but we actually started carrying the project on here. And we've seen a lot of interaction. So, I'll look at the social mentions here. I mean, we literally just added it a week ago. And so we don't even have the full trends yet, but if we're just looking at let's look at the last day here. So over the last day, and this is a brand new project, 1,673 posts coming from 1,470 people. That's fantastic. I mean, that's growth. Like, that's pretty amazing. Just because I'm curious, I want to see how that ranks here. So if I look at social volume, and that is, where does that rank? So that ranks as the 17th highest social volume here today. This is a little bit different time interval, but DMG is the 17th most mentioned coin in all of crypto today. And for a project that we just added, that's really impressive. And that actually is proof to just how hot DeFi is right now. It's not the only DeFi project that we see like that. We actually see across the board. We're seeing a lot of activity, but yeah, I mean, our feed's getting bombarded with DMG for the last week. It's been pretty crazy. In fact, we were bombarded before we added it. Before it was trading, we were bombarded. So there's a groundswell with this one. Pretty exciting.
All right, what else we got in here? We got LCX.
We got LC. Do we have LCX? Of course, we have LCX. And why do you think we have LCX, Joe?
LCX is, so everyone knows LCX is an exchange in Liechtenstein, and we did just announce a partnership with them, and we're going to actually be kind of putting LunarCRUSH analytics and social analytics inside of that exchange, so that the traders and the folks that are using the exchange have that data directly accessible on the interface in their trading terminal. So that's super exciting. And, just kind of a general partnership, where we talk to, different exchanges and companies, all across the board all day. And we're just looking to partner with good people that are excited about building the future of crypto and are open-minded. So, really nice people over there.
Yeah, they're really great. Really, it's interesting. When we first started talking about LCX, it's not a product that I'd personally used, and went in there, created an account, and wow, they have a really nice user experience. They've done a really good job, really putting everything together, and it's a super clean layout. So I'd encourage everyone to check it out. I think it's really, really neat what they're doing. So again, another project that we just added. We added it in June. We're seeing strong growth. We're seeing lots of increases in social mentions. So we've on Friday up to 704 social mentions in a day. Still remains very high. The contributors also growing. So we're talking about something that had in the hundreds here, and all of a sudden we're up into 475 people a day. Today that would be 312 people. So this is quite impressive growth. So really interesting to watch this expand. I'm curious who some of their influencers are. Yep, LL Capo di Tutti di Capi. That's a long name, but we've been chatting with him on Twitter. Mr. Oakenshield and Bull Run Gravano. So shout out to you guys for working hard to help promote LCX. Pretty exciting.
How's the? I know it's early, but how's the alt rank?
Let's look at that. I mean, considering that this is out of 2,041 projects, this is fantastic. Also, I mean, we're talking. Even the last few days, 87. So they're already in the top 100 alt ranks, which implies that they have great social activity and relatively strong market activity. That's price and trading activity. So if you bring it all together, again, in real time, it updates every minute. So what we're looking at here is these would be hourly intervals. And if we look at that, if I look at it here on the weekly, it's actually gone down even lower on some of these time frames. But in the 1 day here, it's been performing really, really well. So really strong activity. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, for alt rank, we're looking at things like market volume, social sentiment, performance against Bitcoin. We're pulling all that together, and then we're ranking, all 2,041 projects that we have listed right now on LunarCRUSH. And so it's a nice way to see all of the coins against each other. We even give Bitcoin an alt rank. And so when you're looking at that, it's a kind of a cool metric to look at, almost as like a momentum indicator. So if something is moving, from a higher alt rank to a lower alt rank, that's positive. That's what you want. And then kind of as a longer, I guess, in like a longer term investment strategy would say, if something is consistently moving up and ranking in that kind of top 10, top 20 alt rank, that it's consistently having a solid social following, that it's outperforming Bitcoin, and that it's got market volume. So that there's all of the things that you want to see and invest in a good project are there all together in one kind of look and view, and rank against the rest of the marketplace. So it's helping you kind of decipher, should I invest in this or that?
Want to point out a few that have a little more data and might become a little more obvious in here. And so like alt rank to be number one is the best, right? And so we had Chainlink, which this was on July the 4th, was 178. You might notice that as it was 178, it started dramatically moving down. If you notice, the price hasn't moved very much. So the price hasn't moved very much until we get right into here. And what's interesting about that is what that means is that the trading activity may have been going up, price was not, but social activity was dramatically going up. And so because it was going up, we had a falling alt rank until it gets into this area, and it's like, wow, yeah, price is also moving, market activity is going nuts, social volume's going crazy, and here we go. We're at number 2 today. And so I think the same thing let's look at VChain. And let's look at the last month on VChain. In fact, I want to do week because this week's been pretty crazy on here. So you might notice here, we're down here where price was way back down. The price, this is way before this entire move up to, which was up to 16 thing. This was moving way down because social activity was moving way up before price. And so then you had social and price move up together, just continues until we get to this point of it had a #1 alt rank actually here even before the major move. But it stayed at 1 this entire time because the trading market activity and the social activity at the same time was pretty nuts. And then you start to see it swing a little more wildly over the last day or two here because it's consolidated. So there's actually a story in this, in that, you know, everyone's looking for these, they're doing TA and they're looking at all these price moves, but the reality is it's not that broad of a signal. There's a whole bunch more things to be looking at. And this is just another tool in your bag to be looking at that potentially could let you get in earlier on something. So there's a reason people are chatting about stuff, and you know, you may not be able to trust the advice of one individual on a social post, but we believe you can trust the crowd a lot more. It's a lot harder to game the crowd than it is an individual. And so that's really what we're looking at. We're looking at the crowd and we're looking at that accelerate over time. So there's a pretty fun story in that here with this one.
Yeah, we do have a question from Prison Mike for you. He says, do you guys, I'm just saying it like that, Mike, it's a great name. Do you guys filter out the tweets that just tag a bunch of projects at the end of their tweets? So yes, we do filter out. So what that way we actually do it is as all this content is coming in, you know, we have a machine learning algorithm that is looking at sentiment. So it's looking at things like, you know, positive language, negative language, but it's also looking at things like spam and other things that we think are, you know, unrelated. So things that make no sense based on, you know, if someone names their coin bread coin and someone's talking about focaccia bread, that is not included in what we're looking at. And so what we actually do is, as we train this data that comes in, it gets smarter over time. And it's actually looking for things like a bunch of different hashtags and a bunch of different, you know, tags. And a lot of times those pieces of content are getting lumped into spam. So that's why sometimes you are seeing a decent amount of spam across some of these projects, is because you've got people or bots or someone that's trying to get a lot of coverage on places like Twitter. But we don't want to count that towards kind of like organic, you know, voice or audience, I guess.
Yes, and it's an interesting topic of, you know, how do you guys, we get this all the time, and like how, of course we do, like, you know, how do you guys deal with spam? How do you guys deal with bots? How do you guys deal with all this stuff? And it's like, I always like to say nothing's ever 100%. And anyone that's built anything with machine learning and artificial intelligence knows that, you know, like your audience probably thinks it's 100%. And you always strive to get perfect accuracy. But the challenge is, by the time that you've got really strong accuracy, the game kind of changes on you and it evolves, and there's a new tactic that someone's going to use to do something. And so it's important to note that like what we've done is so specific to crypto. It's so specific to what we're doing. You know, like spam and sentiment, for example, you know, how we've classified sentiment from very bearish to very bullish and we've built a hand-built library. You know, how we've done that would work for nothing else. It's working specifically for exactly what we've built it for. And it's a very targeted thing. Not very different than, you could say, like a Tesla has been very specifically built. The machine learning that's working with Tesla is very specific towards driving and all the tasks and micro tasks around it. That's its own thing that would work for nothing else. And like that, you know, it started with, you know, 10% accuracy, then it's 20, then it's 30, then it's 50, then it's 90, and then it's 95. And so like you do it through teaching you're teaching the system basically to think on its own in a stronger and stronger manner over time. And so that's a big piece of what our team's focused on right now.
Cool. Now we've got reserve rights request.
Reserve rights. Except, wait a minute, I see RRS. I think they mean RSR.
Yeah, they said RSR.
Oh, there's another one. Oh, I see. So multiple reserve rights. Yeah, this is another exciting one here. So, I'm curious who's actually asking for it.
We got a couple different people. We got
one of these
our guy 336.
I was just curious if I'd see any of them on here. So, yeah, I mean, you know what? I want to point out just some of these metrics down here. And these are sort of our cards. So 69, that's bullish. Out of 100, it's Galaxy Score. That's another combined metric that just looks at this coin alone and not the rest of the market. So it's looking really good right now. A super strong alt rank. But some of these things, like, you know, it's hard to kind of look at a chart sometimes and understand just how much something's grown. I mean, if we're looking at 3-month activity, the social like mentions are up 36.4%. Engagements, which is deeper social interactions like comments, retweets, that sort of thing, 68.2%. More bullish, more individuals per day, more shared URLs. You know, like a little more spam. That's actually not really that much, even though it's up. But we're seeing just like, wow, crazy. I mean, it's up 188% over the past 3 months. What are we on the 6 month? So on the 6 month, it's up 433%. You know, over that 6 month period, how many mentions do we have here? 64,000 mentions, 76 million engagements, 34,000 individuals. So this is a super healthy project, really exciting. I think that's another one. They have a dual token system, if I recall. Just because I want to go through this and see it real quick. Yeah, so it's like they're kind of pooled stable coin, and then they have like a like that's their stable coin, and then reserve rights is the RSR token on here.
Gotcha. I was wondering because I thought cool. I thought they were a stable coin, or one of them was a stable coin.
Yeah, and it looks like they pool multiple stable coins within it, and so to hopefully have more liquidity and strength behind it. So pretty interesting project.
Cool.
I also saw on here PundyX. PundyX is on here somewhere. They had a big day last week.
Oh yeah.
You know, we saw, if I look at the last week here, they had a big move. I think it was on Friday, if I recall, or it was last Wednesday. Yeah, so last Wednesday they had a big move here, and that was their contributors. Let's look at the mentions. Let's look at that on the last month. So yeah, obviously it's just like trading with the social just went right up like a loop straight over it. I'm curious their correlation rank that we look at. Yeah, it's pretty strong. So you could see we've got this correlation rank that we've put together that in a broader sense looks at just how correlated is social activity with the price moves. And you know, we see even here it got as high as 4 out of 5. A little earlier it was 4.2. Today we're 4 out of 5 again. So movement of social activity for PundyX is very correlated to price. If you're ranking that high, you know, earlier I think we also saw. I'm just going to pull up Chainlink again, and I want to look at that correlation rank. Right now, like today, we are 5 out of 5 with Chainlink. So that price move and that social activity are like they're lockstep right now. So pretty amazing. It's pretty rare to stay here for even a few hours of time in a row. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Cool.
I think we got another one. We got ZeroX.
Oh yeah, I had ZeroX up here somewhere, didn't I? Let me go back to ZeroX. So this is one, I was actually looking at this earlier and noticed you see these big continual spikes with social engagement. So what that's looking at is people are not just posting top level posts on Twitter and Reddit, etc. They're actually they're interacting with a lot of the posts more than usual. So you know, when you look at this, I want to see it a little longer term. So even that, it's pretty tight. That's pretty amazing. So the community has a lot to talk about. I would venture to guess a lot of this has to do with Kyber because Kyber's gone crazy also the last, which I think we had another request for Kyber also. But we've seen a lot of comparative posts between Kyber that's really moved up a lot. In fact, I'll pull that up, and ZeroX. And whether that's fair or just or not, we just see a lot of those posts. And so we even posted a comparison post ourselves. And let's look at the last. So if you look at the last month, I mean, Kyber's up 125%, and ZeroX is up 124%.
Yeah,
In fact,
pull them up on
let's
the
compare these two. So if we're looking at 3 months on here, so Kyber's up 230, as ZeroX is up 123, and they're both pretty strong, except Kyber looks a bit stronger. Yet Kyber has twice as much Twitter volume, more Reddit volume, a lot more social engagement, a more social dominance. And social dominance is really looking at what percentage of all the posts out there relate to this project. So this is really high. And shared links also, like, so Kyber's just, it's a little further along. Not to say that ZeroX can't catch up, but that's how it looks right now. If we look at just at a shorter time frame, yeah, same with the last week or so. So Kyber is up more than ZeroX over the last week. Yeah, again, stronger social activity, stronger price movement, and that.
Are they about the same with market cap size?
They're pretty close. Yeah, and it looks like I'm going to assume that, yeah, over this last week here, Kyber surpassed ZeroX market cap. So I'm not going to make a call here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see ZeroX play some catch up. I also wouldn't be surprised to see both of them move like crazy. Just in terms of, decentralized exchanges, it's a really big topic. And these two play a really big piece, especially when you talk about liquidity and things of that nature, and they pool liquidity across things. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to also see, 42% price move means a huge market cap move, and, things moving from 350 million to, give it 2 months, it could be $1 billion project. That's pretty wild.
It's most definitely a possibility when you think about those kinds of moves. It could happen while you're sleeping tonight. Oops, I can't see here. If we just look back, let me go back 6 months. And I want to look at like contributors on this thing. Let's go a year on contributors. So these are the individuals posting, and we're looking at a 1 year. And so this is always the most stunning thing that, like, for me to look at when I see that, it's funny, like you could have this like day trader mentality of like, hey, social volume just moved up. How come the price didn't? And we see tweets like that all the time. And I'd kind of tell people they don't get it. You want to use this as like a macro signal to start. And so in general, you have to ask yourself the question of, is this community growing for a project, or is it shrinking? In general, just roughly speaking, not what did it do today or this week, but in general, is this community growing for this project? If you translate that down the line, hopefully that translates into conviction, development activity, buying the coin, holding the coin when something goes wrong. When the TA breaks, you get people hanging on, it doesn't drop to zero. When you look at the community growing, and we see that a year ago, we're talking just barely double digits, 35 people if we're talking 1 year ago. So 35 people were posting about Kyber Network 1 year ago. And I still even remember people talking about it back then, of course. It was around, it's been around for years. And so it was still 35 people. You bring that forward to, let's go look at when we just had this high right here, 1,588 people. That was 11 months later. So this is like hyper community growth. When you look at numbers like that, you just got to realize, well, what does a year from now look like? These are growing exponentially, not linear. Like, this is crazy. So And you know, if
that's
you relate
really
that, compare that to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin moves a little different, but even a year ago with Bitcoin, we had about 5,600 people, and even though it's been relatively boring, we've still had roughly 10x growth in Bitcoin's community over the last year. And again, this is looking at individuals each day posting Bitcoin related content. And so I'm also curious now, since we've been talking about Kyber, I want to see ZeroX community. And let's look at that over the last year. So still a lot of growth, tons of growth. You know, we've had double digits, and we've gone as high as 844 or 307 yesterday. So still stellar growth. It's amazing, pretty cool.
And I hate to pick on potentially a project that might not have had some growth, but just to show people, because people are seeing a trend line. You know, you're seeing this, and even though you're seeing some large kind of volatility in that, there could be, you know, there could be some news that comes out that overall the community is growing. Look at it almost like the number of wallets is growing, more people talking about it, more investors. But you know, maybe pull up something like a Binance.
Sure.
So I feel like I looked at that, and maybe there wasn't as much growth there from a contributor standpoint. Not to pick on anyone.
Well, I mean, it's certainly grown. There's certainly been growth.
Okay.
We've seen it, you know, if we look at the last week here, it's starting to pick up. I know people are talking about staking and things of that nature. Now it's starting to move up.
Yeah. A little.
But like, yeah, a little bit. But when we look at the last month here, it's been a bit of a downtrend. It's still not.
Okay.
It's still pretty active. But let's see, what are they posting? I mean, I think this might be the lowest point in 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, right. So certainly quiet, more quiet than it's been. I wouldn't call it.
But still,
maybe
coming down
quiet.
off of a level that, you know, most projects are not close to, but you know, definitely pulling back a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and you know, really great long-term, huge company, growing, amazing. So I would never count Binance out by any means. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, never count CZ out. Ignore the FUD.
Never. That's right. Someone wants Silica. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
We're just jamming through the entire market. Why don't we just cover all 2,000 today? This is great.
We're going to be picked up as spam because we're going to have 5,000 tickers on that.
Oh man. I hope we're not flagged. All right, so Silica is a fun one because it's grown huge. In fact, because we've been looking at this one in the past multiple times. Let's look at their contributors. Well, and this is kind of a really good example because we just looked at Binance, more established, larger market cap, and they've had a following for some time. And Silica, on the other hand, the movement has all occurred in the last 6 months here. And so some of this is they've built tools that help them. Like, I know they built something called Social Pay. It's like a tipping app, but this is a lot of recent growth, and it's stunning. I mean, this is pretty crazy to see. And so, I mean, over the last year, it looks like 182,000 individuals have chatted about this, and they've posted 446,000 posts, which, let's look at the last 6 months. 400,000 plus of those were just in the last 6 months. In fact, they were mostly in the last 3 months. 362,000 were the last 3 months. So they had some huge, enormous days, but you know, it's sort of messing up the chart because this growth was so much these few days. But we're talking about like just huge increase here. So pretty exciting. Another one to watch. Because again, if you if they were to just double from here, I mean, we're talking, this is like what, 180,000% growth or something. If they were to just double from here, that's a lot of growth. Are you in an airplane, Joe?
Sorry, there's a helicopter flying directly over where I'm at right now.
Uh-oh. Hide anything illegal.
Yeah, right.
Your Bitcoin. Don't let them know you have Bitcoin.
Yeah, not your keys, not your coins.
Quick, put them on an exchange.
I think we've done all the requests, unless I missed one.
Well, what's next for Lunar, man?
Just going through 50 coins every week and giving the update.
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll post some of these on our tweets the next few days here too. And we posted on Twitter earlier. If anyone has any other requests they'd like to see, we're happy to post some insights for you.
Yeah, I think we'll keep trying to post it like a couple hours. If someone says, please Verge currency before we go.
Now you want Verge currency. Now we're giving fully real-time insights. This is amazing. So Verge. So last 3 months, I mean, let's see. I want to just look at some of these summary posts. So if we just look at the last 3 months, social volume versus the 3 months previous has more than doubled. That's pretty cool. And social engagement up almost 30%. The number of individuals posting up 134%. So healthy growth. I'm curious who's influential on here. Pay with Verge, Verge Currency, XVG, Well Real, Crypto Boss 1984. We see them on a lot of posts. Same with Johnny Woo and Crypto Mitch NL, Michael, and Crypto Wizard. We see a lot of these individuals on a lot of posts. So pretty exciting.
Love
Anything
it.
specific with Verge that you want to see other than socials moving up? Let's look at the community on the 1 year. Yeah, also a lot of growth, which is fascinating because I still remember going back to 2017. This was one of those coins that just flat out mooned. I mean, this went crazy.
Yeah.
This was the one that your buddy was telling you to check out right at the top.
Yes.
And so to watch the community just come back and the price come back, that's the story for 2020, if you ask me. A lot of these alts that looked just like it was a never-ending trend down have made really substantial moves, and not just in price, but the community size in 2020. So really, really great, really exciting.
No, I think a lot of it has been kind of flushed out, and I think it was a good, it was what crypto needed. In 2017, it brought it to the center stage of everything, and a lot of those, we go back and we look at kind of like screen caps of, who was in the top 20 back in 2017, and a lot has changed, but a lot has stayed the same.
Right.
And it's a testament to, I think, people in the industry that believe in what they're doing, and they believe in the projects they're working on, and they understand that, there's a lot of innovation that happens around all these projects. I mean, DeFi to me it's almost just like another word for what crypto is kind of turned into, and I do think it's I do think it's somewhat interesting that, anything, what goes up must come down at some point. And, to what level, we don't know. But it is, all like everything's a lending facility. All these DeFi projects, they do all have their own coins. They do, they pay you to, if they're lending to you and then they pay you to hold it, and it's interest, and there's a lot there, and there's a lot of investing activities that need to happen in order for them, to be successful and to turn a profit and everything else. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see some of that stuff flushed out over the next 6 months and see who really actually makes it happen and who doesn't. So
agreed. Sorry, I think it's super loud out here right now.
Just take us on a walk into around your neighborhood. See how far into your Wi-Fi.
Is that what you want? It'll cut out at some point, I'm sure. Yeah. So, great giving some updates. It was fun. And, we'll see you all on Twitter and Facebook. And we also have a Tumblr and an Instagram and a Pinterest, believe it or not. So we're updating everywhere at this point. Super fun. You'd be surprised just how interested people on Pinterest are about crypto. I was shocked. We actually ran it as an experiment, and there's a fair amount of activity going on. we were just trying to broaden our audience and seeing what was out there. And so same thing on Tumblr, which is, it's actually, I think it's like the 8th biggest social network in the world or something like that. And some countries use Tumblr a lot. So interesting. I'd also throw Giphy in there. We're going to start something there. But yeah, exciting. It's exciting to just kind of see where the different crypto audiences are all over the world.
Yeah. For all you startup founders out there, just test and iterate, figure out what works. You don't know until you know. Awesome, man. Well, cool. Yeah. We made it 45 minutes today. We appreciate everyone listening through that. And yeah, shoot us a DM on @LunarCRUSH and let us know kind of what you liked, what you didn't, and we'll keep it rolling. But thank you, everyone. And John, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.